it's me, your buddy Dave, the host of the Dark Stuff channel on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out my latest video. Folks, you have tuned in to an episode of this year's week, which is sort of a summary of everything that is going on in the world of the Dark Stuff. This isn't the most active week in the history of the channel, though I will be totally candid with you. We are in holiday time. We're just past Thanksgiving. I'm recording this on December 2nd. So I'm going to be doing some pickups, some record store day stuff. The new Dark Stuff playlist is out because we're in a new month. We'll be reviewing that. I want to talk about a couple of bigger projects that are coming up on the channel at the beginning of next year. All right, so before we get started, let's talk about this month's Dark Stuff playlist. So every single month, I do a 2-hour playlist for you, the audience. I do it for Spotify and for Apple Music. And this month's playlist, for example, has we got Sly and the Family Stone, we got Digital Underground, we got The Faint, we got Rufus Wainwright, Azure Ray, Billy Squier, Gang of Four, Phantom Planet, Sonic Youth, What Made Milwaukee Famous, The Rolling Stones, Missing Persons, DJ Quick, ZZ Top. That's just to name about half of it, right? Basically, this playlist is just a summation of what I've been listening to for the last month. I do try to insert some relevant stuff like groups I'm going to go see, or in the case of, say, Azure Ray, we're going to be reading Arenda Fink's book, so I threw that one in there, stuff like that. Has been super cold here in Nebraska, and sometimes that those frigid temperatures kind of make me wimp out in terms of going to shows, and I do occasionally miss out on some of them that I normally would have intended to go to. However, I was not going to miss the Speed Nebraska showcase. They were doing this thing here called Speed Lightning. Okay, Speed 500. I don't know what is it called, Speed Lightning or Speed 500? I don't know. Anyways, doing a release show with a bunch of bands from the label. The label's based here in Nebraska. On this record, it has the Wagon Blasters, the Really Rottens, Until, Cat Piss, Bad Bad Men, Mezcal Brothers, The Broke Loose, Clarence Tilton, Pagan Athletes, and Domestica, which you might have known 30 years ago, known as Mercy Rule. Anyways, they were doing a showcase for this. Some of the bands were playing. I was able to catch Until. You might recognize them from a video I did about a year ago where they played opening for Speedy Ortiz, I believe. Good band. Because there were 5 bands on this bill, it started really early, so I needed to get there at 7 to see Until, right? But then I had to factor in dinner, so I had to leave for a bit, go grab a burrito. By the time I got back, Pagan Athletes had already played. So unfortunately, I missed those guys, and I do really like that band. So next up was a band called The Broke Loose. I was completely unfamiliar with The Broke Loose. I'd never heard or seen them before. They are on the record, the Speed Nebraska record. They were a very good Midwestern rock and roll band. You know, they would be right at home up in Minneapolis on bills with Soul Asylum and stuff like that. I think that was kind of the vibe that they were going for on that. So then the fourth band was the Wagon Blasters, who I assumed was the last band because I thought they were the best known band. So I assumed they were going to go on last, but they went on fourth, and so I caught them. And then I ended up missing Bad Bad Men, who I've also covered on this channel before, and I really, really like, but I'm going to get a chance to catch them this weekend, so not all is lost. But I caught about, I don't know, half of the Speed Nebraska showcase. Okay, so before I talk about Record Store Day, let me just point out that I happened to get the new Susanna Hoffs record, The Lost Record, in the mail, finally. It's not huge for packaging or credits or anything, but at least you get some credits in terms of who's writing and stuff on there. Again, this is an album that Susanna recorded in the late 90s, and then it was sort of scrapped because the Bangles ended up getting back together, and so there was sort of no need. And then a number of those songs have subsequently come out on Bangles or Susanna Hoffs solo records after the fact. Okay, so I attempted to do Record Store Day this year, and I went down to Homer's. And my MO is I'm going to show up after lunch, okay? Just basically, because I don't have the patience to get there really early in the morning. It's Nebraska. It's cold. I'm not going to sit out there and freeze my ass off in 20-degree weather. And there wasn't really anything that I was that excited about on the list, although I also don't really like to look at the list in advance. I like to be surprised, when I walk in. So I got there about 1, and the crowd had completely dissipated. There was no line, not even a line to check out, which was unusual. I went through again. I didn't find anything I was even remotely interested in paying for. I heard there was some sort of Jane's Addiction 12-inch, but I didn't even see that, and I probably wouldn't have bought it because it was like their new song that they put out shortly before they got in a big fight and broke up. So a buddy of mine who was with me said, well, why don't we try out 402 Vinyl and see what's going on over there. Now, they don't do Record Store Day stuff. They're a used record store, but I'm glad we went anyways because I found some cool shit, and they were doing everything like 20% off or whatever. So I got this Flaming Lips 10-inch for Brainville, which is really cool. It's Brainville is a song off their 1996 album Clouds Taste Metallic. It's on yellow vinyl. And this was I just got because it was just sitting right in front of my face, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I'm pretty sure I have the CD single already for this, but I don't know. Okay, the biggest score that I got was a Japanese copy of this girl record called Sheer Greed. Okay. Now, if you don't know who Girl is, they were a UK hard rock band from the late 70s, early 80s that featured Phil Collen, who went on to join Def Leppard about the time of Pyromania, and Phil Lewis, who ultimately became the lead singer of LA Guns. And this was a glammy rock band that they did in the late 70s, and they also cover Kiss. And it's sort of a collector's item because I don't think it's ever really been in wide circulation throughout the United States anyways. And then when these guys became more famous, it still never really made it for some reason. So anyways, Girl, Sheer Greed, cool stuff from those guys. Okay, I picked up a relatively inexpensive copy of Women and Children First from Van Halen. This is the only album of the original 6 Van Halen records that I didn't have on vinyl. Now I do. Amazing record. Okay, I got London Town from Wings. Picked up a cheap copy of that. I've been listening to a lot of Paul McCartney and Wings ever since that one-handed clapping session thing came out earlier in the year. I've been on a big McCartney kick. Got the Flashdance soundtrack just because I would argue that Jennifer Beals is perhaps the best-looking human being who's ever been born. I don't know, just like looking at it. Okay, and then finally I picked up a copy of Punch the Clock from Elvis Costello and the Attractions. This is one of the few 80s records of his that I didn't have on vinyl. This is a decent one. Let Them All Talk, Every Day I Write the Book is great, although I like that when they do it live better. Love Went Mad, Shipbuilding is awesome. TKO, a good record. Not a great record, but one that I didn't have on vinyl, and now I do. So I mentioned when I was talking about the playlist that our next book for book club is going to be by Arenda Fink. I interviewed Arenda Fink 10 years ago on the old audio version of the podcast. She's in the bands Azure Ray. She was in Little Red Rocket, O+S. She's had a couple of solo records. Anyways, she just published her first book, The Witch's Daughter. I haven't even started reading it yet, but that's going to be the next book on Rock and Roll Book Club. We just published the episode for Sly and the Family Stone. And then I'm working on a couple of projects that are going to be taking up a lot of my time. Number one, I'm doing my best of the year video, my best of 2024, and my live concert review video. Those are pretty long. Those are going to take a while. I'm in the midst of doing those right now, too. I've also decided to undertake doing what I'm calling a mini doc or a short form documentary on the band Hue from San Francisco. I have a history with them. I'm not going to get into it here because that's going to be covered in the actual video, but this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly how I want to do it. Normally with a documentary, you have a crew and you go places and whatever, and that's not going to be what this is. This is going to be all people talking online, mixed with footage and photos that I, found footage and photos from the band. And it was the 90s, so not everyone was carrying around a camera filming everything, so the footage is sort of limited. So it is a bit of a challenge, but it's one I'm up for and I'm pretty excited about. And I'm also going to be starting a new segment here on the channel. It's going to be a monthly segment that's going to be, well, I don't want to talk about it too much, but it is going to be similar to my concert tales, where we're going to be talking about 80s stuff, mostly in the hard rock and metal realm. And I do have a co-host for that, and I think you're going to like this person. So that's pretty much all that I got for you this week. It's a little bit light. Check out that playlist, and just you'll have to enjoy that until my best of 2024 video comes up shortly. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
So, you have a MySpace page or something?